So that ocean in a tiny drop, that's a paraphrase from a poem by Rumi. That God is the ocean and we are all tiny drops. We're not the whole ocean, but everything that's in the ocean is in us. I'm a drop that contains all that is in the ocean, but I'm not the whole ocean. Yeah, beautiful. I love this because we're talking about being versus doing. We want to be human doings, humans doing. And really we are human beings or humans being. Rumi said, let the beauty we love be what we do. Let the beauty we love be what we do. Dale Carnegie, who is a famous entrepreneur teaching other people how to do that, said the way to be is to do. And that is from the perspective of the human world. The way to be is to do. However, the Tao says the way to do is to be. The way to do is to be. And Frank Sinatra says, dooby-dooby-doo, dooby-doo. Thank you. We're here all week. So this idea of being an instrument of peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Ooh, there's beauty in that, of your peace. I don't have to manufacture the peace from within me. There is already a peace that exists in this ocean. And as I am a tiny drop of that ocean, I can contact the peace inside me, the peace of God, which is already there, but which I cover over with a lot of things and forget about. Make me an instrument of your peace. And an instrument, we talk about musical instruments. A musical instrument's job is to take sounds and organize them, combine them into music. An instrument is a tool, so an instrument of peace is an instrument that creates an atmosphere of peace in which we can live. But I love the fact that it says a tool or an instrument of peace, because that could also be interpreted to mean a peaceful instrument, like the instrument itself is peaceful. And I believe that's what we're called to do, not to go around doing, you need to be peaceful and you need to be peaceful and you need to be peaceful and I'm going to do things, I'm going to carry signs, I'm going to whatever to make sure that you are peaceful. Doing, forcing people to peace at gunpoint. Our country does that kind of thing. All the countries do that kind of thing. But to be peaceful. And we talk about here that your prayer partners at 7 p.m. every night pray peace into the world. Not pray for peace. That would indicate that there isn't peace and we have to beg for it. The prayer partners pray into that peace that is already there by allowing themselves to be completely peaceful, to be that peace in the moment, and to bring that consciousness into the world. Not a consciousness of we don't have peace so we must get some, but a consciousness of there is peace available. Let's live ourselves into it. Let's be that. And as with everything I'll ever teach from up here, it's an inside job. It's always an inside job. So it is ours to experience that peace that passes understanding ourselves and then to bring it out into the world. Love is drawn to love. Peace is drawn to peace. Hope is drawn to hope. Faith is drawn to faith, right? So we are here to experience that peace. And when we are exhorting others to please be peaceful, we are not in peace. We are in worry. We are in fear. Sometimes we're in desperation. Let me be a tool of peace, not fearful, not worried, knowing fully, at some level, even for just a moment, that the truth is, the truth underneath all the truth underneath this human world where stuff is going on all the time, is that we are spirit, and that in spirit, we are always safe. We are always well. There can be no threat. There can be no harm. And therefore, we can be in that peace and an instrument of peace to the world. So we want to be peace. We've established that. How do you be peace or be any of the other things in this prayer that we just read? And it's in the prayer, I think, that St. Francis' instructions. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Let me sow love. So what does it mean to sow love? Well, to me, that means that there is a seed of love that's always already there. So are you letting it stay inside there, or are you taking it out and sowing it? Where there is hatred, let me sow love. So where there is hatred, let me not go, I can't believe those hateful people. Which is, what we do when we open our phone or look at the TV at news time. How dare people be so hateful? Thank God I'm not that hateful. So we sow love. How do we sow love? Sometimes the only possible way we can sow love is to sow it in our own hearts. It's to sow it in our own hearts. You can sow love around you, but you can't make anybody else cultivate it. You can sow love in your own heart, and you can provide it with nourishment. You can give it water and sunshine. You can hoe it and cultivate it so that it grows. Where there is hatred in me, let me sow love. And then love is drawn to love. The rest will take care of itself. I don't have to sow it in you. But maybe if you see me sow it in me, and it's real, not that I'm pretending at it, but it's real, that somehow I have touched this core of love within me and I'm able to live from it, then maybe that's just contagious enough for you to catch it. For you to go, think of a dandelion seed. You don't actually have to sow those, right? The wind catches them, and if there's a place for them to land, they sometimes will grow. So if you are sowing love and reaping love, then trust the wind of spirit to catch that and to find a place where there's soil that is ready for it to grow, and it will do its work without us having to do it. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is injury, let me sow pardon. How do I do that? Forgiveness. I forgive my enemies. First of all, I forgive them. I don't say, that's all right that you did this. Condoning is not forgiveness. Forgiveness is, I allow that you have choices to make and that I do too. And I am not going to allow your choices to poison my mind and my life. I'm going to live from the love I know I am. And I'm going to allow you to experience your consequences, whatever they are, not in joy and schadenfreude, like, oh, good, yeah, he's going to get it now. Karma. But that's the beautiful thing, is that we can transcend our karma at any moment. We can transcend. We don't always have to sow exactly what we reap. That is called grace to me. That sometimes we have a change of mind and we begin immediately to sow something different. And if we continue to cultivate that change of mind, then we begin to get to reap that and not always what we've sown in the past. So where there is injury, pardon. Forgive my enemy, but more than that, stop thinking of them as my enemy. You only have an enemy if you decide that you do. So stop being an enemy. Stop thinking that they're the problem that needs to be fixed. Start saying, where there is injury, pardon. Where is there in me that feels injured? And from that wounded place, I am reacting in ways that aren't helpful to me or others. Then I get to start to cultivate healing for that wound. Rumi also said, keep your eye on the wounded place. That's where the light enters. So, where there is doubt, faith. God is infinite abundance, right? And we forget that. We doubt, we see darkness, we think, no, it's darkness. We see lack, oh no, it's lack. So where there is doubt, we sow faith. We sow, okay, in my sanest, most loving of moments, I do believe that God is love and that that is the truth of us at some really deep soul level. And so I get to sow that in myself. I get to cultivate that. Do I spend time on the things that say, oh no, the world's going to hell in a handbasket and I got to get out there and, maybe there are things for you to do, but if you do them from hatred, if you do them from fear, they will not be effective. If you do them from love, if you do them from faith, then they have a chance. It's an inside job, and then life works from the inside out. So the hardest part is feeling faith ourselves. Have you ever noticed how you can really feel faith for someone else? Like, I know you're going to get better. I know that this is a season that you're just going through and that there will be an end to this season and that something else will be on the horizon and it will be something that blesses you. Have you ever just known that for someone else? That's a huge gift that you can give. Is it a little harder sometimes to do that for yourself? Can you know, oh yeah, but you don't understand. This is really bad. This is really bad. And we don't even have to believe it. We just have to allow the possibility in. That's the thing about faith, is it's not about certainty. It's about allowing the possibility in. What if this is a season, and this season will be over, and there will be another season coming? I'm telling you, in August, I begin to feel like it will never be cool again. And every single year I feel that way. And so far, we'll see what happens in 2026. But so far, every single year, September comes, and then October, and then November, and it does cool off. And it does cool off. There's faith. We can lend another our faith. We can borrow faith from another. Sometimes we have someone who says, I know you can't see it for yourself, so I'm going to see it for you. And we allow that. That is a way to sow faith inside of ourselves. So it's our job to plant the seeds, and not necessarily always our job to keep cultivating them and make them grow, especially if our idea is to make them grow. When we plant the seeds, we simply try to find some good soil for them to be planted in and trust that Spirit is at work and allow that to happen. Follow a thought of doubt with a thought of God's faithfulness. Not just to me, but to all creatures on earth. I used to have a friend that would say, I don't think God carried you this far just to drop you on your head. And I know sometimes life feels like you've been dropped on your head. And loss happens. This life is temporary. It is very temporary, and everything in it is temporary. Every good feeling is temporary. Every bad feeling is temporary. And so if we just show up with what is, knowing that it changes, and allowing those changes to happen, and holding on to some idea that underneath it all is good. I don't know how this will work out, but I trust that it will work out somehow. Not the way I want it to necessarily. That's not faith. That's giving God orders. But I trust that it will work out. Help me to be available to the ways that it works out. Help me to recognize the good when it shows up. Because if I'm so focused on taking the bus to Galveston so I can get to the seashore, I might miss the limo that's here to take me to the airport in Hawaii, right? We decide, this is what I want, and it has to look exactly like this. What if we just allow God to decide that? Where there is despair, hope. We speak words of hope to ourselves. That's how we sow hope. When there is despair. Anybody never feel despair? Yeah. Anybody feel some this week at some point? Yeah. Hope. We just remember, yes, it's temporary. And we sow a thought of hope. These, what we are sowing are thoughts. We talk about in unity, you change your thoughts, you change your life. This is true. I'm not saying you change what happens to you, but you change how you experience what happens to you. And that changes your life. It changes how you interact with the world, and how you interact with the world helps determine how the world interacts with you, and it all works together. So where there is darkness, let me sow light. Where there is the darkness of ignorance, the darkness of fear, the darkness of conditioning and habits, the darkness of pain, of prejudice, of misinformation. Where there is darkness, let me sow the light of God's truth. What have I decided is true? Because what you have decided is true is what will be true in your life. If you have decided it's all hopeless, then that's the way you will receive and experience your life. If you have decided that love prevails no matter what, then I'm telling you, love will prevail in your life. It will happen. Truth on those thoughts and feelings and actions that want to believe in something different. Shine the light of forgiveness. Shine the light of love, of hope, of faith. Shine that light. Where there is sadness, sow joy. Doesn't mean there isn't a season in which to be sad. But sometimes we get so married to our sadness that we forget that joy is available not after the sadness is over, because some sadnesses don't end. When you lose somebody important, you're going to feel sadness about that for the rest of your life. Are you going to live and swirl and sweat in sadness for the rest of your life? You don't have to. There are other choices. And part of that is remembering that joy is available not later, not tomorrow, not after things get better, but right now. Joy is available right now. Right now, a kitten is doing something really cute. Right now, a flower is growing somewhere. Right now, there are birds singing. Right now, there are people who love you and who are available to you. If you don't believe it, look around. If you're new here, I'm making you a promise. There are people here who will love and accept you exactly as you are and be glad you're here every single time they see you. That's how it works. So we make ourselves available to joy, whether we're sad or not, where there is despair, hope, where there is sadness, joy. Joy. O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. And I see this as a responsibility, right? A responsibility to console ourselves, right? Somebody else fix me. I'm sad. I can't be, I'm disconsolate. Help me, help me, help me. Come fix it. Make things better. Make things better on the outside so I can get happier about them on the inside. No, it's my responsibility to console myself first. And what that means to me is to remind myself of the truth that I know, or the truth that I have heard and am beginning to let in some way. And when I remind myself of that truth, then I automatically remind the world of that truth, because I walk around not in sadness and despair, but I walk around with joy and hope. Not that I'm never sad, but I know that sadness is not the final answer. It's not the end. It's not the end. To be understood as to understand. Stop explaining storytelling. Stop telling your story over and over again. You don't understand. This is really bad. Let me tell you all about it. You get stuck there. Sometimes we need to tell our story. We need to be witnessed. We need to be heard. Our pain needs to have the light shone upon it. And I encourage you to do that. And our grief circle is a place where that happens, where we're there to witness each other in our pain, but not to stay there. Not to support each other in just staying there indefinitely. No one's going to try to push anybody out of there. You get to stay there as long as you want. But to know for each other that there is something beyond that. There is something beyond that. So the storytelling that we do can cause us harm. When you tell a story because it needs to be witnessed and it needs to be heard, good on you. Because the reason it needs to be witnessed or heard is so you can begin to move forward from there. Because A story by its very nature is in the past. Only you can carry it forward with you into the future. And if you want to tell it to every new person you meet so they will understand, no, you don't understand, this is how I am, and this is why I am like I am, because here's my story, then you can get stuck in that story and you can live there the rest of your life and there is no judgment. You can do that. But you will not have the joy that you will have if you say, that was my story, and here's how things are different now. Or here's how I'm not allowing myself to get stuck there. Here's how, even in the story of sadness, I can watch a kitten and laugh. I can hold a puppy and smell its head and be very, very, very happy in that moment, especially if it's someone else's puppy and they have to deal with house training it. To be understood as to understand. Oh, then we start listening. When we stop telling our story all the time, we start listening to others. And there is wisdom there. There is always wisdom there. There is wisdom if you hear somebody telling the sad story that they can't get out of. Ooh, in what ways do I do that? And how can I do something different? There is wisdom in hearing somebody move beyond their story into a new telling of where they are right now, and we can be inspired by that. But we can't be inspired by anything outside of ourselves if we don't shut up. I know. I don't shut up very often. I admit it. But I have to if I want to hear something new. And I have to shut myself up. I have to shut up my own story so that I can begin to hear the new story that's in here. That's in here, not the one someone gives me, but that's in here. There, yes, that happened, and yes, it hurts, and it may always hurt. And life continues. And how do I want to live into that life? What do I want to carry with me as I move into that life? Do I want to carry the lessons learned, or do I want to carry the pain every step of the way? Because sometimes we get married to our pain and we feel like we're almost being disloyal to our former selves if we stop feeling that pain. You are not being disloyal to yourself if you decide to stop feeling the pain as strongly and you decide to make yourself available to joy. You are being the most loyal to yourself and to your loved ones that you have ever been. Because if they're truly your loved ones, they wanted and want now joy for you. To be loved as to love. Help me not so much seek to be loved as to love. Because if you go around trying to make everybody love you, they're going to feel that, and it's not comfortable when somebody's, I want something from you. You have to give it to me. And the more desperate you are to have it, the more they feel your desperation, and the harder it is for you to connect on a person-to-person level. So what if you start asking, what's in it from me? Not what's in it for me. What love can I give to this situation? And that doesn't mean you force love on people who don't want it. People will let you know, no thank you. Then you move on. They don't want your love. That's okay. Maybe they're getting love from somewhere else. Maybe they're not ready to receive love. Maybe they can't recognize real love when they see it, and they're accepting a substitute. They're accepting things and materialism or whatever. It doesn't matter. Being loving. Well, here's how. It starts with loving myself. Because if I don't, that will be known. That's a lie that you can't hide. To say I love myself when you really don't. So what does it take to begin to really love yourself? Well, all of this. Start sowing these things. Start changing your thoughts. When you have a thought of self-loathing, self-hatred, self-criticism, go, wait a minute, hold on. Am I or am I not a child of God? Am I not a drop of the ocean that is God? Do I not contain within myself everything that the ocean contains? And if so, why don't I concentrate on that which brings me joy and which allows me to accept myself? It doesn't just happen because you have the thought, I should love myself. I read an article about self-care. It doesn't happen because you took a bubble bath. It happens because every day you decide, no, I am going to care for myself. And when you care for yourself, how to care for others becomes obvious because you're no longer wanting something in return. It's not transactional anymore. It's open and it's free and it's giving. Because as St. Francis says, it's not just about being unselfish, because it's in sowing these things that we receive all these things. You cannot shine a light without brightening the room you're standing in. You can't give understanding without becoming more compassionate. And if you're more compassionate, then you're more compassionate toward yourself and everybody. You can't be compassionate a little bit or only compassionate in a certain situation. When your compassion grows, that changes who you are. You cannot share truth without experiencing truth. You cannot share joy without experiencing joy. Think of it for a moment. Okay, I'm miserable, but you laugh. How's that work? But if I start laughing at what's going on, it might be contagious. You might catch it. It might be I'm just this dandelion blowing in the wind and finding places for the seeds to land. And I don't even have to find them. I can let Spirit do that. It's my job to stand up and be the joy. And so it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. So it is in stopping judging myself, right? I stop judging myself, and then I stop judging the world. And then if somebody else is judging me, what do I care? Other people's judgment only matters if I agree with it. If in some way I go, oh, I am like that. Oh, no. Oh. Other people's judgment will roll right off of you if you go, that's not really true of me. I mean, I listen to it. I can hold it up and go, do I do that? Am I that? What is there of that in me? But then if you don't agree with it, if you go, no, actually I've looked at myself very, very clearly and here's what I see, and I choose to love it, then whatever anybody else does can't really, really harm you, because it is in dying to the old ways, the old beliefs, the belief in the power of outside circumstances to determine your inside landscape. It is in dying to that we are born into the eternal life of Spirit, into our belief of oneness as translates to walking in the world as one, trusting the power of God to work through me and to love this world through me. We are God's hands sowing the seeds of life. And this is how to be love, to be understanding, to be compassion, not just compassionate, but to be compassion in the situation, in whatever situation you walk in, to be the light of truth, to be the light. That doesn't mean slam your truth down another person's throat. It means hold the truth that you know, regardless of what happens or what is said. Hold the truth that you know. Your being will change your doing, and you won't have to worry about the doing. Your being will lead you there. And just your being in the midst of whatever darkness, ignorance, sadness, despair, just your being there as a light, as a love, as a hope, as a being of joy changes the situation. Change one element, and the whole thing changes. Maybe not to your liking, maybe not 100%, but it changes. So how to do is first to be. And if you find yourself wanting to exhort others to be different than they are, the question to ask is, where am I not that? How am I not being that? Because why would I want to point it out in somebody else if it wasn't somewhere here in myself? Make me an instrument of peace. Make me a peaceful instrument. Therefore, every piece of music that I play will be peaceful music. I don't have to search out the peaceful music. I have to be a peaceful instrument. Thank you. So let's just take that into meditation for a moment. Isn't it nice not to have to do anything and just be? And there's no way to do it wrong, I'm telling you up front. Oh, I didn't meditate very well today. Did you sit there? Okay, then you did your job. That's all. So I invite you to just sit here in this moment. And if you are so called, maybe pay attention to your breathing. We can only breathe in the present. That's why we return to it in meditation. Not because it's some magical thing, but we tend to get caught in the past or in the future. Breathing only happens in the present. And so when we stay with our breath, we stay with ourselves. We're not running somewhere else in our minds. And so, as I simply sit here and breathe, I allow myself to be. To just observe, there's a thought. Here's another one. Without having to judge it as right or wrong. There's no right or wrong here. But if peace is what I want, I can ask, is it possible for me to have that thought and still be peaceful? Or is there a way for me to change my own thought that actually allows me to feel and experience the peace that I know is available to me? Gandhi said, be the peace that you want to see, not make everybody else sign up to be the peace that you want them to be. Be the love. You can never make anyone else love you, but you can show up as love for yourself. And when you do, you will show up as love for the world, because that's how it works. And when you show up as love, your world becomes more loving. It just does. And if a thought of fear or worry comes up, that's okay. Humans have fear. No judgment. You're not bad for having a fearful thought. But you can say, is that fear the truth of me? Or is that fear something I've attached to because I'm looking at something outside myself? And what would happen if I just decided to breathe peace into that fear every time the thought presents itself, to replace it? No, I'm just breathing peace in this moment. I'm not trying to chase fear away. I'm just breathing into the peace that I know is available to me. If a thought of criticism comes up, self-criticism, can ask, how can I be more loving in this moment? Simply by holding loving love. We get to be love for ourselves. And as we hold that love as the truth of us, we don't have to chase away anything. As we hold that love as the truth, it simply expands until there is no room for anything else. When a thought comes up that is a lie, how can I shine the light of truth on it? Simply by breathing in the truth of love, which is the highest truth of all. I don't have to argue with every single little thought. I can simply say, oh yes, I agreed that I believe that love is the final truth, that love is what we're born from, love is what we are born for, love is what is ours to do, and love is where we're heading. It's the journey and the destination. And I will keep bringing my mind back to that truth. Not perfectly, because here I am in this human body. Here I am in this human world, and yet I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm not a human being trying to find my spirit. My spirit is who I am. And so I allow that. I allow myself to believe that. I breathe into that. I remind myself of that. And I slowly, as St. Francis says, die to the ways of the world, die to believing in those things that are not true, and find myself reborn into a new way of being, into a way of being that reflects the truth of who I am, and not all of the stuff that I've put on over that truth. Not the stuff that the world will try to tell me is true, but the stuff that my heart has decided to experience as true. And then, even in this cumbersome human body, I am living the life of the Spirit, the life of love. And I am so grateful. And so it is. Amen.